There you go. That means it's time to start. Well, I have 7 o'clock on the dot. So we'll be getting started. We do have the webinar already started. So folks who are joining us on the webinar, let us know if you have any audio issues. I know our microphones don't pick up the best sometimes, so I want to remind board members just to enunciate best they can into the microphone. We will start the meeting. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask that we rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. And for the invocation tonight, I just want to ask everybody to keep our residents in your thoughts. We've had a terrible storm. It was short, but it was powerful. And we have many of our residents, including some here tonight, without power, with property damage, with downed trees. And I just want to ask that everybody take a moment to think about our fellow resident and think about their safety and hope that all are doing well across our town. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Aragosa.
Here.
Councilman Godlewski.
Here.
Councilwoman Worzbowski.
Here.
Supervisor Petzley.
Here. So we have a few things on the agenda here tonight. We will, after town council reports, be taking up a proclamation I'll be offering to Kristen Dater for her work in our community. And we'll get to that in just one moment. We do have a public hearing that our town attorney is going to address before we open that public hearing. And then we have a variety of other resolutions. The one resolution that we will not be moving tonight, I think, as people have seen, is 14, which is adopting local law 16, amending chapter 27, code of ethics of the code of the town of Glenville. And that is going to go back to workshop. And I think our town attorney is going to address that issue before we open the public hearing, as I had mentioned. But we do have an add-on, so one comes off and one comes on, and that's how we get paid. Resolution authorizing, we don't, I'm just kidding. Resolution authorizing the demolition to be performed at 513 Elliott Street, and that's an emergency resolution that we have to deal with, and we'll take that up in just a moment. So that's my opening, and we'll start with town council reports. I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Just briefly, Mr. Supervisor, just wanted to first report that I attended the unveiling of the new town flag ceremony, and really kind of a little bit of a ceremony for our bicentennial this past Saturday, along with all the members of the town board. And I just wanted to acknowledge what a nice event that was, and that was great to even in this time where we're dealing with the ongoing COVID issue, to be able to have a small, safe, socially distanced gathering and celebrate our town. Did want to acknowledge the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was a cultural icon, a hero to lots of different folks who represented various social issues and social causes, obviously women's rights, gay rights, and a whole number of others. And as a husband of a wife, a son of a mother, and a father of a daughter, we lament and mourn her passing, and hope you will peace. And that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Worzbowski.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that Newcomb Fire Department will be holding a Brooks Chicken and Rib Barbecue on October 30th at 4 p.m. It's one of their annual fundraisers, and so it usually sells out pretty quickly. And you can head over to their Facebook page, I think, if you want to grab tickets for that. And also to acknowledge just a quick thank you to the fire departments and the DPW workers that are going to be working into the night, helping to clear trees and debris and restore power. It's going to be a long night, I think. We're out of power at my house, so hopefully everybody is safe and patient while they await their power restored and all that. That's it.
Thank you. Councilman Martin.
Yeah, just briefly, I attended a meeting of the Local Development Corporation as the board liaison, and it was refreshing to see that the Local Development Corporation now is once again holding in-person meetings, and you have the option of attending virtually. And I'm pleased to report all the loans outstanding are up to date, with the exception of one, and they are doing their due diligence and follow up on that and tracking that. It's not that far overdue, but maybe 30, 45 days. So given the long history of that organization and their successful infusion of dollars into our local economy, I think that's a pretty good record. And also we continue to work virtually through the Code Revision Committee, and we'll have some forthcoming revisions coming as a result of that work too. So, and lastly, I also attended the flag raising ceremony, and it was a wonderful ceremony. I think a very fitting way to celebrate the bicentennial. And I think given the limitations we're all working under, it was extremely well done.
Thank you. Councilor Ragosa.
Just the census has been extended till the end of the month, so you still have time to go out there and fill out your census form. I did have a conversation with a census taker who was working in the north side of Schenectady the other day, and her take on it is that the people that are going to, unless they go track you down, you're probably not going to fill it out. But if you haven't done it, please try to get it done. So that's all on that. And I always want to thank Arnie. I had a conversation with Arnie about, I had a call from Arnie in the building department. He quickly got back to me on a question also Bill Pertel. I called him about something. I want to thank them both for their quick response. Thank you.
We'll move on now to a proclamation honoring Kristen Dater for her community work with Rainbow, 518 Rainbow Hunt. Sorry about that. Kristen, as I mentioned earlier, I normally come down but to try to not be in too many places speaking, I stay at my desk during this whole thing. But I do have your proclamation. Once I read it, I'll ask you to pick it up, and I can't hand it to you, and you're welcome to say a few words, but I do want to read the proclamation first and thank you for your great work in our community. As the board knows that we started back in January and February and part of March, we started honoring people in our town for the great work they do. And now that we're back semi-open, we wanted to do that again. And you distinguished yourself in what you did during this pandemic, and we want to recognize that. So the proclamation reads, whereas Kristen Dater, after reading rainbow comments on her Facebook newsfeed, developed a rainbow hunt for local families to join. And whereas the premise was for families to make and display rainbows or go hunting for rainbows displayed at various locations while remaining socially distant. And whereas the idea became known as the 518 Rainbow Hunt Facebook group and was created on March 18th, 2020. And whereas Kristen also created an interactive Google map to assist in finding rainbows. And whereas this group went viral and quickly gained members totaling up to 116,000 members worldwide, all out of Scotia, Glenville. Congratulations. And whereas Facebook created a TV commercial and social media campaign featuring the 518 Rainbow Hunt, making this group even more popular. And whereas the development of the group helped support families by working together, getting exercise, and spreading goodwill during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we badly needed. Whereas the Glenville Town Board wishes to recognize and thank Ms. Dater for her service to our community and for her work in bringing optimism and joy to our residents during this difficult time. Now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the Glenville Town Board, I, Christopher A. Ketzley, by the power vested in me in Office of Supervisor, do here proclaim today, Wednesday, October 7th, as Kristen Dater Day throughout the town of Glenville, rainbow or not. It's your day. If you like to say a few words at the podium.
Well, I never really expected anything to become as soon as it did, obviously. I just made the Rainbow Fund group and thought maybe we would gain maybe 1,000 people throughout the group, throughout the Glenville area, just to kind of keep some young families busy and spread some good vibes and positivity. Little did I know that little social media magic fairy dust would happen and we get so big. So I mean, I can't really do credit for everything, it just happened. But I'm so glad it did because it brought joy to so many people. It just helped so many people get through this time. I feel like we're starting to get back to a little bit of normal. But definitely while everybody was kind of cooped up and in their homes on lockdown quarantine, it was definitely a good thing for a lot of people of all ages. There's people who were elderly, my grandparents who were 85 years old were making rainbows. A lot of nursing homes had people making rainbows and displaying them. So of course the little kids, but it helped so many people, whether they were making them or just viewing them, even within the group, if they couldn't get out to do anything, they were just all sharing throughout the group daily, thousands of posts a day. So it was just very, calming and time consuming, obviously. So that was it. I'm just happy it happened the way it did.
Well, thank you, and you're an example of what a difference a person can make. So thank you. Why don't you plug your fundraiser while you're here? You got it. Might as well plug it.
So we've teamed up with Mohawk Honda and we're trying to help out the Joe Nickel Prince House. They lost out on a lot of their fundraising this year because they do a walk every year and it's a huge fundraising event for them. So we're helping them out by hosting and co-hosting a Gifty barbecue at Mohawk Honda on October 15th at 4 o'clock. On our Facebook page, there's details about buying tickets ahead of time so that we can help them. All of the proceeds will go out to them. They don't get any assistance. Everything's based on donations. So that's really big for them. So just trying to help them out with a little bit of fundraising.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you can stay for the fun or you're free to go, whatever you choose to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. Okay, we're about to open the public hearing for the evening, but prior to that, I asked our town attorney to opine somewhat on the public hearing and what the process will be going forward.
So the code, as we discussed, that we were proposing for the public hearing tonight, and the vote was provided to town board members.
I'm just going to ask you, can you enunciate a little more because people are having a little bit of a hard time?
Okay.
Sorry. On the webinar.
So for the town code that we were proposing for tonight, the amendment to the ethics code, it had been provided at a workshop to the town board members, and also it was provided out to the public. We received plenty of comments, both through social media, print media, and we received comments from individuals both within the community, outside the community. We received comments and had a discussion with CSEA Regional regarding the language that was proposed within the amendment. The amendment, as was discussed at the workshop, was never meant in any sort of way to dissuade any person, either public or private, from running for public office in the town of Glenville or from being employed in the town of Glenville. The amendment that was proposed was meant to provide guidelines for those that are either seeking employment, either as through public office or as an employee, or are employed or elected to office in any role guidelines for which they are to follow and be recognized. And that was the intent of the amendment as it was proposed. We heard a lot of feedback that when we discussed it with individuals and CSEA and said, this is our intent, they said, well, it doesn't read that way. So we never want anything to be like that. I understand that there was a lot of discussion. I read it on Facebook pages and I read it in print media and listened to it. And as a result, with the supervisor, we listened to that and we thought that for the public hearing tonight, that we would continue along with the public hearing, hear individuals' thoughts on the proposed amendment, but we're not going to be offering that proposed amendment. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to the workshop at the next workshop meeting that the supervisor will advise everybody the date of, and then propose for another public hearing a new amendment to the ethics code. But we thought it would be, well, I could tell you legally, because a resolution had been passed calling for a public hearing, we thought that the best thing to do was to continue along with that and hear people's thoughts on the proposal as it is, and their thoughts on other ethics issues that they would like to see in the law. So that's where we stand, at least in terms of the process, and that's where we stand, at least in my mind, is to the intent of the law as it's proposed.
Thank you, Earl. I will now open the public hearing. We do have folks on the webinar and we have folks in the room. So what I think we'll do, just to make it orderly, is start with folks in the room and then we'll move to folks on the webinar. So I'm going to open the public hearing and the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Supervisor, and sorry, before we begin, I just want to also kind of talk about decorum and being professional. There have been times both at the last town board meeting and also on social media in which some of the professional might have crossed the line a little bit. And so I'd only ask that people be professional here. I will start to act as a gatekeeper in that regard if I need to do that. We all are facing families and loved ones who don't have power right now, including those on the board. You know, this is a time in which I ask that everybody just be professional. Also, the supervisor is going to, as he said, would ask that you keep your comments to a summary and short, sweet, and also, but tell us what you think.
Thank you. The public hearing is still open. Mr. Solo Truck, I think you raised your hand first.
Hi there, George Solotruck. I am a current Siggins Village trustee and a resident of the Village of Scotia. In full disclosure, that's my role here. I'm speaking more as a resident of the village now, and acknowledging a few things that I've learned in my few years of serving the Village of Scotia as a trustee. I also sit on the Scotia Glenville Democratic Committee. I am an employee of a utility company that provides services to municipalities. And I feel that I have a great opportunity to offer that knowledge to the village with those things. We have things that come in front of the village where I have to think about my relationship, my day job, which is my employment. This is how I make my living. I need to be cognizant of the fact that there are people that come in front of me that are my customers during the day as well. So those are things that are, you know, we're in this mode of full disclosure. I applaud you guys for passing this resolution now, because it really didn't read where there was any separation between any public office, any public sector office, any first responder, anybody who does business with the town of Glenville is restricted in serving. Even today, some of the statements we've seen say it's not precluding you from running, it's not precluding you from winning, but you will be called into question by some man. I request that you define that manner, how it will be done, and ensure that it's not going to be a majority board that's going to make those decisions. Hopefully, there will be an emboldened ethics board that will be asked to do an impartial comment on these things, because we all have things we do during the day, and we only want to obviously extend ourselves more by serving our community. So I encourage everyone to not use the social media to your point. It's not the place to do these things. The place to do these things and discussions is to do it here. Do it in front of the people that are doing things. Transparent presentations, allowing for the public comment, and actually allowing impartial judgment to come back. Again, I encourage everybody to pay attention to what's presented, listen to the words that are said, and do your best to engage, so that you don't have something pass that you don't have comment. And second, I applaud Kristen's efforts as well, because it's amazing to see how one little thing, even kids during the time when it was a very big scary time for all of us, you know, our kids, our friends from our local school, drawing rainbows and chalk on the sidewalk, saying hello to their friends because they haven't seen them for a while. So again, thank you for that presentation. Very appreciative. Well deserved. Again, thank you for delaying the vote and allowing for more public comment. I definitely look forward to seeing who's going to oversee the determination.
Thank you, George.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, so to the comment that you made as regards to the Board of Ethics, the Board of Ethics, to my knowledge, has never had to take anything up. In my experience, what generally happens, and the way I understand the code as it is, that if someone were to raise an issue regarding an employee as to a code issue, an ethics issue, that would then go to the Board of Ethics to review and then provide an advisory opinion to this board as to any sort of issues that there may come up on a case-by-case sort of basis. So that already, there is already a mechanism. I know that I've had discussions with the current Board of Ethics about also making some rules and regulations within that board based upon that we provided other rules and regulations from other municipalities for that board to kind of take into consideration. And I hope in the future that that's something that we can do with the Board of Ethics.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things that wasn't apparent in the current statement. So it's as a resident, more so it's imperative that it's.
And that's why I thought. Well, that's why I thought I would just explain how it stands right now and what my thinking is moving forward, because the Board of Ethics has never really had a chance to review anything. So I want to get ahead of it, that if they do ever have to review something, that there is something there, there's a guidelines for them as well on how they can go about reviewing a matter.
Thankfully, they have that opportunity to review, right?
That's right. And just as we need more, heavy rain is just starting. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter here in the room? Yes, Catherine.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Burns-Smith. I am a resident of the town of Glenville. I am also the chairperson of the Social Glenville Democratic Committee. You mentioned earlier that there were several organizations and people that you listened to on this topic. I didn't hear mention of the New York Association of Towns. It doesn't mean you didn't reach out to them. It was just one name that I didn't hear. I would encourage you to do that. There seems to be some discussion that town law cannot supersede state law. So I would just encourage you to reach out to the New York Association of Towns for additional information and input from them. And I'm lucky enough that I have power at my house and all my trees are still standing as of now.
Well, we'll bring a lead over to your house to charge our phones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Not your last chance at it. We'll come back to you if you do want to be heard in this room. Let's go to the webinar. Anyone wish to be heard? There's a virtual hand you can raise and we'll unmute you on our side, and then you have to unmute yourself on your side. Anyone wish to be heard on the matter? Going once, going twice, seeing no hands. Anyone else in this room like to be heard on the matter? Going once, going twice, seeing no hands. The public hearing is now closed. We will now move to privilege of the floor, which will open privilege of the floor. We have no one signed up for privilege of the floor, but if anyone would like to speak at privilege of the floor, it is now open. Raise your hand and we'll ask you to the podium. Or if there's anyone on the webinar that would like to speak at privilege of the floor, raise your virtual hand and we'll unmute your microphone. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, privilege of the floor is now closed. We're on to supervisors' comments before the board. I have a few things I just want to talk about. And I'll start with mentioning something that both Councilman Godlewski and Councilman Martin already mentioned. The flag raising ceremony, I thought, was a wonderful experience for the town. We have our first ever flag, which is historic. We have one coming in here that will join us as far as a presentation flag, and they're starting to go up over all of our properties across the entire town. And so it's something to be proud of, I think, for us, and it also gives us a nice sense of identity. I talked about the spirit of Glenville being embodied in that flag and all the great things that, oh, perfect. The computer wants to do an update right now. So it's all we need. And we have had people ask if you can purchase them. We are looking at buying garden flags or smaller flags if you're interested. So those will be available hopefully soon. We're excited to announce, Jill Weissman and I, the chair of the 2020 committee, announced that we're dropping our first virtual lecture series ever tomorrow. It will be on the 2020 webpage, and we were supposed to do a lecture series this summer and have an open to everybody, but we had to cancel that. And so we took the summer and we put it virtually, and we'll be doing our first one tomorrow. It's on Yates Mansion. It's really cool. They're about 20 to 30 minutes long. We look at different topics throughout 8 episodes between now and Thanksgiving. And our school district is one that's featured, the rise of the suburbs, ESAM. There's a whole bunch of different things we look at in town history, our churches. So watch for that every Thursday at 8 a.m. That will be dropped, and watch them on your own time. And if, it gets a little too boring, pause it and walk away, come back and watch it again and watch the rest of it. But it's going to be, I think, pretty cool. I was on a conference call. Thank you, Kathy, for mentioning that, with AOT on a variety of issues. Actually, we've been very active with what's going on in the budget, and that was not a topic of the call, but it is clear to us that in our conversations with them in the past, and I think also with the attorney, that town law cannot supersede state law, and that's one of the biggest points I made as to why folks can continue to run. The town of Glenville does not have the power to tell you you can't run for office. It just doesn't. And that's kind of on its face. But we did talk about their call with the state comptroller, who is now saying, originally we thought in September we would be getting our AIM, is now saying December. You have to remember, our AIM money is no longer part of the state budget. It's part of the internet sales tax that the state captures on behalf of the counties, and then the governor now has AIM come off of the internet sales tax, and because of that, it's a position of AOT, and the comptroller has agreed that it is not subject to clawbacks. Now, the comptroller, as I said last time, made it clear again that he does not make policy, he only advises, and that's his advice. So he can't say for sure if it's going to be clawed back or not, but he would agree with the position that it is not state budgeted money, it's sales tax money, and therefore not subject to clawbacks. Now, that says the sales tax money has to materialize, and there's an indication that we believe that it has materialized, because a lot of folks did buy on the internet as opposed to in stores, and unfortunately for our small businesses, but we believe that money will be there. And I want to take an opportunity to thank the folks, our county legislators who represent us. We've had a long road. I want to thank Jim for leading this effort for years now. The new sales tax agreement is fair. It's not as much as we wanted. It's not as quick as we wanted, but we'll take what we can get. We feel it was a good deal for the towns. It's the first time that we will be sharing in an escalator. And I want to say that it's clear, anybody who's paid attention the past couple of years, that Glenville led that effort. And I had calls from some folks in other towns thanking Glenville for the work that we did here. So I think our residents should be proud. We're leading, we were leaders, we got it done, we influenced it, and we're very happy with the agreement. And anytime I can let my friends on the county legislature know that I'm happy, I think it's a good day. And we are working with Michelle Austerlitz, by the way, Councilman Aragosa, to get the word out on the 2020 census. We had it put on our community board, and she'll be putting some lawn signs up on our property if they're not already up. So we're excited about that. I want to take just 1 minute to talk about the budget. We have a very good budget because I think that's getting lost in some of the other stuff going on. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but our tax rate is well below our tax cap. It's half of what our tax cap could be. So we're saving our residents there. The village, our residents in the village, the town residents in the village are actually going to see a decrease of property tax from the town. That's because they're in the A fund. The A fund is seeing a decrease. The B fund is not seeing a decrease. That will go up by one. Well, the blend is 0.98, so it's under 1%. But I think in this time and what we're seeing out of some of the other municipalities, this is a very strong budget. We do appropriate more fund balance than we have done in the past. It's the first time in my 12, 13 years doing this that we're appropriating more than less. But certainly this is a time that needs to happen. And so we're going from 300,000 to 465,000 in allocation of budget of fund balance. But other municipalities are at 1.6 million. Two others are at 1.6 million alone each. And that's a significant amount of fund balance. We're not anywhere near that. And I want to thank Jason for all of his hard work on this, consistently bringing in the budget, working together. That is fair and balanced and affordable and structurally sound, and has put us in this position to weather this storm. And I want to thank you for that. So thank you. It does also reduce our net debt by almost $1 million, $950,000. So we're continuing to reduce our debt, which helps us. And we did absorb a 20% cut in AIM. We absorbed all the sales tax cut. We absorbed a 3% drop in mortgage tax. We've added some money for a new police car, new highway pickup truck, raises for the employees, both the union who have them contractual and the non-represented, but not for elected officials. I felt like the elected officials at this juncture with what's going on with COVID, it's just not the appropriate time. But our staff, and you've heard me talk about this before, has done an outstanding job at keeping our services going. I wanted to do something that showed appreciation. It was only a 1.5%, but they deserve it. We didn't miss a beat. I talked about this at the flag raising ceremony. Everybody pitched in, figured out how we're going to address this issue, and just continued servicing our residents, and we couldn't have done it without them. And I want to thank them, and I think that it was appropriate for them to get something. Capital projects, we're putting some money in to replace the Dawson Road Bridge, which is badly needed. We are putting in some money for additional paving in the Glen Oaks neighborhood. We have our paving finally, because we put additional money in the 2020 budget, started in Scotchbush today. And we're very excited about that. Woodhaven is complete. And we are putting money in for the Sacandaga Elementary sidewalk, which we got a grant for. That was an important project we worked with the village on, and we'll be reaching out to you because we do have the RFPs coming in for the engineering. And we are putting $125,000 out of our capital reserve towards it. We have a $125,000 grant. It's currently frozen. I'm hoping it's unfrozen by the time we're engineered and into spring. And if not, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I'm dedicated to it. I think the board's dedicated to it. Those folks need it. It's dangerous down there. Georgia, you and I have been out there together. It's badly needed. So I'm hoping the village stays committed to it as well. So that's all I have for report. And so we'll now go into our resolutions, and we have a resolution number 9 here, scheduling a public hearing for Wednesday, October 21st, right here at the Town Hall to deal with any objections to the assessment roll for Water District number 11 and extensions number 10 through 50. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Okay, so this is basically just setting the assessment roll for Water District 11 and extensions number 10 through 50. Please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 10, scheduling a public hearing for Wednesday, October 21st, regarding to listen to any objections to assessment roll for Sewer District number 9 and extension number 7. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Again, setting the assessment roll for water or for Sewer District 9 and extension number 7. Please call the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, next, resolution 11, scheduling a public hearing for the same night, October 21st, same place here, to hear any objections regarding assessment roll for Sewer District number 1. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? As read, please call the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, to schedule a public hearing on the same night, same place, regarding any objections to assessment roll Sewer District number 2. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. As read, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. I forgot to ask if there's any comments or questions, so I apologize for that, but I assume there wasn't on that one. Next, resolution 13, authorizing the supervisor of the town of Glenville to execute all necessary documentations for the 2021 court funding under the New York State Justice Department's Court Assistance Program. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I
it.
have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, I would just like to point out that this is yet another initiative by our court clerks who have been extremely busy trying to play catch up with all of the backlog in the courts since COVID has hit. They are yet again going to request and have filled out all of the relative paperwork for grant monies. Generally, those monies have gone into improvements within the courtroom, and I'd like to thank them for their diligence in and their ability to obtain funds for us to make improvements.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Resolution 14 is struck from the agenda. Resolution 15, approving the town board minutes of the regular meeting held on September 16th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is one of our pro forma resolutions. This would approve the minutes as submitted by Ms. Nielsen and her staff for the September 16th. 2020.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 16, approving the town board minutes for a special meeting held on September 24th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Again, Mr. Supervisor, this resolution would approve the minutes from the September 24th, 2020 special meeting. Thank Ms. Nielsen and her staff.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Before we do new business, we'll do the add-on resolution, which is add-on resolution 1, authorizing the demolition of, to be formed at 513 Elliott Street. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Earl, I just wonder if you want to just give a quick overview to the board as to why this is on here and how we want to move forward.
Sure, we just became aware that there's a situation at the residence. There's currently no owner that we have been able to contact. The residence needs to be demolished based upon, I believe it's a water break. And so this emergency resolution allows for Mr. Capola, the Commissioner of Public Works, to employ a contractor to demolish the building. Mr. Capola has gone through and contacted a couple of businesses and contractors to determine who is the best to get the work done. This resolution allows for an emergency situation for Mr. Capola to have that work done, and then also to have the funds for that work added to the assessment roll at a future date for the property.
So that'll be in the form of a lien placed on.
Yes, we do have to give notice to the landowner. We've done that previously, but we do have to give due process, so we'll be doing that. And then placing it upon placing a lien upon the property.
So what happened was there was a water main leak that damaged the foundation.
Yeah, my understanding is it's been in disrepair for a while. And, but this is an emergency situation based upon water.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Earl, are the taxes in arrears at this time? Or are they current? Do we know?
I don't know the full answer to that, to say publicly.
Okay.
My understanding though is that this is a homeowner that we have not been able to contact
Right.
whatsoever.
Right. Okay. Thank
And
you.
just for public awareness, the two amounts that are being acted on in this resolution is $2,947.50 for Intertech PSI. That's the low bidder on air monitoring services. And then for the general demolition, amount of $24,795 for Jackson Demolition Service Incorporated, also as a low bidder.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Yeah, we need to have the air monitoring services out there.
Right, I would expect so, yep.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. On to the last item of the agenda, which is new business. I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Just one thing, Mr. Supervisor, I have a resident inquire regarding the McKeel, what was going on with the McKeel property back in the St. Stephen's Lane neighborhood. There've been some rumors and residents have been talking. This is not something you usually discuss publicly, perhaps email or maybe an update at the next board meeting. But it does sound like there's been some talk about perhaps that property being purchased and the residents have just wondering what's going on with it. And that's all.
I actually thank you because you get as old as I am and you get a lot of things going on and you forget to mention some things and that's one of them. So I'll address that on my comments. Councilwoman Wozzachowski.
I know that she would be extremely embarrassed, but I would just like to publicly wish my daughter Kirsten a happy 17th birthday.
Congratulations. Councilman Martin.
Just my usual, I want to thank our policemen and women here in the town for the great work they do on an ongoing basis, keeping us safe. And they have my undying appreciation.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
I have nothing.
Thank you. I just want to take 1 minute to thank all the residents who have weighed in on these important issues. Some were very kind and some maybe not so, but I appreciate it all because I think it's important to hear it. I want to thank CSEA leadership for taking the opportunity to allow me to get on a webinar with all the folks who were interested in this to talk this through, to share some ideas. It was a good conversation. We had I think a respectful dialogue, and I think we understood each other and where we were each coming from, and they were very helpful in I think providing some language. And you know, once you get to the point where this is what we're trying to do and they say this is what we're hearing and this is what we like to see, and once you get to that and start finding that language that makes sense, it's starting to come together. So I just want to thank CSEA and thank all the residents who have reached out. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and it's not just this issue, it's been a lot of issues. So I did forget to mention the McKeel property. We don't have a lot to say publicly. I had an opportunity to have a webinar with the residents of Berkeley Square, Big Woods, whatever you want to call it. There are some issues with the McKeel property right now. We have our police officers involved, but as you could imagine, COVID has impacted McKeel as well, since their foreign students have dried up quite a bit. And this facility on Cypress was supposed to be about the foreign students and building a school for them. It is now vacant, and so it's become a place of some issues, and we'll just leave that at that right now. But it has required a lot of public safety effort. Talking to our code enforcers, talking to Earl, we've required them to fence the entire building because folks continue. There's probably about 300 windows in that building, and every time we board one up that they just broke, they just break the next one. And so we're trying to keep them away from that. What became clear in our conversation with the property owner is that we now have a situation that is not going to go forward as a school, and it's turning into a blight. And so we all kind of went to work on what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and we've had a lot of conversations. They're bringing forward an idea that isn't currently zoned for that area. A lot of iterations of it, but it would include a solar farm and potential housing mix. And since that's not currently zoned, it became important to me, as I told the developer. So here we have the developer saying, I want to do this project, but I'm not going to spend money on it if the town's not interested in it because it's not zoned. And I said, well, I can't tell you if the town is interested in it until we talk to the residents, and we'll let you know what they say. And so we had a webinar the other day with about 20 some odd residents. Universally on that call, on that webinar, everybody was happy with the general concept. The details will be, important for people. They want to know how big are the lots, how many homes, what's the site, can we protect from the aesthetics, all this kind of stuff. So we're talking about that now, and I gave the developer an indication that there seems to be general support for the project if they want to come in with a site plan. Melissa and I drafted a letter to the folks on Cypress. They're getting letters. If they couldn't attend the webinar, it was recorded so that they can watch the webinar and ask any questions. I committed to those folks that once we get a site plan, we will continue to have an outreach to them on this, probably with a webinar, because we really can't do it in public too easily and accommodate a lot of people. But we will continue to keep them in the loop on it. So
Cypress is the only egress. There's no other way around.
no, and we looked at it.
It borders the park, if I remember.
It borders the park. There's a ton of wetlands. We looked at trying to get down through Anderson, and it's so cost prohibitive. So that's the biggest problem. There's no sewers there. That's the next problem. So
That might be a bigger problem.
that's huge. So the only use that is really left is this potential solar, but the only issue folks had was the aesthetics of it and making sure that it was screened well enough. So, and that's where we came in and said the homes might make the most sense because that will naturally screen it from the street. So if someone buys a house with it behind them, then that's what they're buying. They know that. It's not going to affect anyone who's already bought their house prior to that. So that's positive. I think news, and we'll just keep the process going and keep the residents engaged. And when we have a site plan, we'll bring it to the board because it will be a PUD, which is an overlay onto the, so you'll be passing that legislation here if it gets that far. So, see, I tried to make a shorter report, but you made me go longer now, Mr. Galewski. Yeah, so it's his fault. So that's all I have for news, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
I got moved and seconded, I think. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Now, if I don't have power.
I think it's going to be a long time.